Tonight at 6, some DPS students return to class while others are told to stay home.
I think it's hard to find a solution that's going to work for everybody.
Plus, counties warn of more restrictions amid a rise in cases of coronavirus.
Go somewhere else and sweep something else.
A sweeping lawsuit is filed against Denver over its handling of homeless camps.
And the dollars and common sense involved in lowering Colorado's state income tax.
I think that people will want to keep more of their own money in their own pockets.
And our failure to invest is costing us more every year.
Denver Public Schools is taking a patchwork approach to returning students to the classroom.
And it's not by choice. As Denver7's Russell Haythorne reports, the state's largest school district doesn't have the staff to make in-person learning work for all.
Some school playgrounds in Denver are alive again with the sounds of school-aged children, while others remain silent.
I don't know that DPS is staffed appropriately to properly handle it where kids are still in their same classes.
DPS mom Wendy Maffey respects the different challenges of each school, but also questions the in-person return plans that vary from school to school, putting families in difficult situations.
What are the parents doing? How does this affect them only being limited time in school? They got to get back and forth.
Especially for parents with different aged kids going to multiple schools. The problem for DPS appears to be staffing shortages. A letter sent home to parents of Westerly Creek Elementary students indicates 625 students chose full in-person learning. But the school, quote, does not have enough adult coverage to meet the cohort guidelines for lunch, recess, and indoor recess. Both George Washington High and South High have said they will continue with all online curriculums and not return in person at all for now, even though many other DPS high schools are returning this month, and middle school plans seem to vary school to school as well.
I think it's hard to find a solution that's going to work for everybody. I think that's what it comes down to. Every school is different. Every principal has different challenges. They have different staff.
We've reached out to DPS for comment and have not heard back as families try to navigate ever-changing policies they hope will be more consistent soon.
I do think it can be an imbalance.
Russell Haythorne, Denver7.
4 more Denver businesses in trouble tonight for COVID safety violations. All 4 involved people either not wearing masks or not wearing them properly. To date, the city has issued 174 citations. 13 businesses were forced to close.
Arapaho and Larimer counties warning tonight that more restrictions are coming if cases don't decline. Right now, both are in what's considered level 1 phase of the governor's reopening plan. Slide to level 2 and restaurants, places of worship and gyms will be allowed to host fewer people. Now, overall, Colorado is trending in the wrong direction. 461 tests came back positive today. 521 were confirmed on Sunday.
The Mullen, Middle Fork, and Cameron Peak fires generating a lot of smoke early today across the Front Range. The Mullen fire is by far the biggest offender and greatest threat right now. Several communities remain evacuated along the Wyoming-Colorado line, and at 151,000 acres, it's even larger than the record-breaking Pine Gulch fire near Grand Junction.
The city of Denver and Mayor Hancock are being sued tonight for violating the terms of a court settlement on homeless sweeps. Advocacy group Homeless Out Loud says Denver broke the rules in recent months by not giving a week's notice before clearing camps. The city disagrees it violated the terms of that agreement. Have time for a little light reading? This year's Blue Book is roughly 100 pages long and more than a little dry. And even then, it hardly scratches the surface.
And that's exactly why Denver7 political reporter Megan Lopez is going 360 on the most complicated and pressing issues on this year's ballot. Tonight's topic, the state income tax and what we stand to gain or lose by lowering it.
The question sounds simple. Would you like to pay less in state income taxes? During an unprecedented year with a pandemic and a recession, for most people the answer is an easy yes. But before you vote on Proposition 116 November 3rd, here's a closer look at the dollars and cents of it. On the ballot for this Denver7 360, 2 lawmakers, the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, a supporter of the idea, and the authors of 2 different reports studying its potential impact. Colorado's income tax has held steady for 20 years. It's a flat tax, meaning everyone pays the same percent no matter their income, and it applies to both individuals and businesses. 7 states have no income tax at all. Other than that, Colorado has one of the lower rates in the country. Proposition 116 asks voters, should the state income tax be reduced from 4.63% to 4.55%? If you earn Colorado's average income of $69,000 a year, you'd save about $55 in taxes annually. Though supporters say it's a little more than that since businesses would save money too and hopefully charge you less. But the reduction would result in a roughly $154 million drop in revenue for the state budget next year. For supporters of Proposition 116,
I agree. A tax cut does sound great. Why would we say no?
This is a way to help people and businesses save money during a difficult time.
This is the tiniest of tax cuts.
John Caldera runs the Independence Institute and says it could make businesses want to come to Colorado or stay here.
We want to make sure that we're more attractive than other states, and this helps a little.
When you allow businesses to keep more of their own money, they can hire more people.
Sonnenberg.
That's Senator Jerry Sonnenberg, who tried twice to lower income taxes at the Capitol. He says even with the cuts, the state government's budget is bloated and things like roads and schools aren't being made a priority.
The only way to solve that is to allow people to keep their own money, to be able to prioritize themselves what they want to spend that money on.
I consider this very much a bill for the middle class and a bill for jobs.
Beyond that, they pointed out President Trump's changes to the tax code actually help Colorado make more money, and that the legislature raised fees and closed tax loopholes this year, so it is bringing in more funds. And even though the Blue Book analysis found that 75% of people will see a savings of $50 or less,
$50 is still $50 to somebody who needs that money for their kid and needs to buy books or clothes.
For opponents of the idea,
Coloradans need the services that the state provides now more than ever.
The state is already in a tough financial situation.
We had to face about a $3 billion budget deficit. There were significant trade-offs that were made.
That included cuts to education, transportation, mental health programs, and more. And they say this will only make things worse.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of Coloradans benefit far more from the $170 million toward the state budget that provides critical services.
The Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, which represents business groups, agrees.
That's probably a surprise to many people. But the reason we do is because our current income tax doesn't prevent companies from choosing to bring jobs here, or companies who are currently here from expanding those jobs.
President Kelly Brough says companies care about transportation infrastructure so they can ship their goods and education to attract good employees to the state.
And our failure to invest is costing us more every year. And when you look at those kinds of costs, what you realize is we're much better off paying the current tax rate instead of reducing it.
In the run-up to the election, policy researchers are studying the potential impact of Prop 116.
This is really, like most public policy, about trade-offs.
Chris Brown from the Common Sense Institute says it could help ease some of the financial burdens from this recession.
This proposition, if passed, would benefit the private sector, increase employment, stimulate output slightly. At the same time, it would magnify some of the hardships that the state government faces.
Depending on how the state responds to the cuts, Brown says hundreds of jobs could be lost or hundreds could be gained. And this is only slowing the state's financial growth slightly. So while the state is losing money,
in the long term, we do expect revenue to rebound.
For the average Coloradoan, this is a raw deal.
An analysis by the Bell Policy Center is painting a different picture.
It's really a tax cut that will very much benefit the wealthiest of Coloradans. So 55% of the benefit will go to the top 3% of earners in Colorado.
It found that even a small tax decrease would have disproportionate effects on communities of color since it could result in cuts to services.
Colorado's tax code is really regressive, meaning middle and low income Coloradans pay a higher percentage of their income towards taxes. This is really furthering the regressivity we see across our tax code in Colorado. You lose a far greater amount in investments in your communities, your teachers, your schools, than you gain getting back.
The question sounds simple. Would you like to pay less in state income taxes? But both supporters and opponents of Proposition 116 say there's a lot more to it than that, and they hope voters will weigh the dollars and cents of it all when they cast their ballot in November. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
We'll be airing stories like this one at 6 o'clock all week. For now, we want to know what you think about lowering the state income tax. Send us an email with your thoughts to 360@thedenverchannel.com.
We received so many calls last week asking how to watch the first debate between Senator Cory Gardner and former Governor John Hickenlooper. That one was only online. This Friday's debate you will see right here on Denver 7. The debate begins at 5 o'clock. It goes until 6:30. And our colleagues at Colorado Public Radio and the Denver Post will join me in moderating.